All right, Lucas, Isaac Parker, we're up to guide 22. We might go nuts on this one and try to do two story cars in one guide, which would line up the story car number with the actual guide video. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how we're feeling. So we're at the 2003 Elantai Kaloop. Again, not the real car's name. So let's listen here. Hey, I just got this little hatch. I bought this car thinking about commuting. I needed something small, but something that would give me joy of driving. I bet on this Elante Kaloop. Small but agile and fast. Unfortunately, these cars are often victims to young, inexperienced drivers and look bad to say the least. This specific piece must have been driven in some races. It's had uh, it has its best times past it, but in general, not in the worst condition. Can you please tap in here and there? You know the drill. I see potential here. Appearance is not key to me. All that matters is I restore its former driving properties and performance. Good luck. Repair or replace body panels, change the oil, and there'll be some other tasks for us. So let's go ahead and take this order. Just check our inventory, and our inventory is all those parts that we had purchased in the previous video here. All in good 100% condition. So we have some parts that we'll be able to use on this car if we need. It is filthy. Let's start at the old car wash and clean this up and see what we're dealing with. Get a car wash on. There we go. And we'll go ahead and check car status. So we need to do an oil pan. Okay, that's already been identified. I wonder if that's missing. It might be a missing part. Ah, this is a rear engine. Go to examine mode. Yeah, I think it's a missing part because it's not identified as red, so this car just may not have an oil pan. Okay. That's one issue we know we're going to have to deal with. Repair just the rear bumper. Is it missing a rear bumper? It is. We'll just go straight to the bodywork store and just get a rear bumper. And it's fixed. Okay. Change the oil and change coolant and just throw in some washer fluid. So washer fluid is actually in the front. We just saw that. So we can throw some washer fluid in. Washer fluid's fixed. That radiator looks poorly. That fuel pump does not look good. The front suspension, like that interlink, that looks bad. That wheel hub looks bad. So probably got some suspension work. And looking underneath the engine, yeah, there's no oil pan, so we don't even have oil in it, so we don't have to drain oil. All right, let's see, is there any diagnostics that we could do? When we get into the engine bay here. All right, let's check our tools. We can do an onboard diagnostic scan. Compression test we won't be able to do because we don't have an oil pan. Alright, that stuff tests fairly good. We can do an electronic multimeter test. I had to turn the fireplace on down here. It is a little chilly. It is game day. Go Bears. Last game of the season. See if we can finish with 3 wins. That ought to be just terrible. At least that'll get us potentially the first draft pick going next year. So yeah, the radiator fan housing and alternator are bad. And I'm pretty sure the radiator is bad too. Alternator's bad. Throttle's bad. Okay. We can check on the tires. 78, 74, 80, and 80. So the tires are all right. And what else can we check? Fuel test we won't be able to do because it can't start. It doesn't have an oil pan. And I don't think we can do a compression test. All right, that gives us some data. Excuse me. We can go ahead and do a quick examine mode. Examine the engine here first. Looks like there were some pulleys on that side there that look bad. Yeah, that's the alternator, belt tensioner. The belt itself looks bad. Okay. Check the rest of the... I got some exhaust panels here that are bad. Let's check the suspension on this side. And as we identified just from our eyes, there's clearly some bad... Alright, bad air filter too. You can see, like, if you look right inside the oil filter or air filter box, there's that red. The air filter's bad. Okay. Other bad suspension parts on this side. I think that's all I can lay the mechanics peepers on inside the engine bay. Let's look at the back here, which is technically the front, because it's a rear engine car. We got some suspension work in the front. Check on the fuses. That looks alright. Let's check that tire on that side. Okay, some suspension work there too. Cross member at least good. Okay. Let's go to normal mode. Check our parts. We still have some parts that are unidentified, but that's alright. We got work to do. Alright, let's normal mode this. Didn't mean to add that to my shopping list. Alright. Our status. Let's clean out the shopping list. I added stuff I didn't need. Close this up. And let's move the car to the lift. Alright, pop her up in the air. I think we'll start under the vehicle to start. Partially because we know the oil pan's off the car already, so that can give us some eyeball look at the pistons and the crankshaft and the crankshaft bearings. And these have minimal rust on them. You can barely see any, so I think these are going to be fine. So let's just go to assemble mode. I'm not in the engine compartment. I see. No, I didn't mean to click that. All right, let's click on the engine. All right. Part mount. Do not have an oil pan. Let's go back to the parts store. Buy the oil pan. All right. Now we put an oil pan back on. We'll be actually able to put oil in this sucker. But you can see trans looks bad. This exhaust piece we know is bad. Pop that off. This is bad. Let's pull the wheels on this side. It looks like we got some brake issues to address. Got a bad, looks like a bad rotor. Pads look okay. Off the drive shaft here. Go ahead and pull off bearing and the wheel hub. Pop that off. Let's get this shock off. It looks bad. Partially because the lower suspension arm also looks bad. And we'll take off the upper suspension arm because I think that knuckle is bad, just based on how it looks. And I'm pretty sure it was on our parts list. So, there we go. That side's off. Let's get this side. Another bad brake rotor. Pop that off. Get the drive axle. WD-40 to help correct that issue. Get the bearings. Knuckle cover. Upper suspension arm. Grab Grab off that shock absorber. And the lower suspension arm. And that knuckle. Alright, that's off. And we can pop over here. This is, I believe, a starter I can remove. Good. Then we can take this transmission off. And then you can see that bearing is bad. Clutch release bearing. The clutch pressure plate looks bad. And the clutch plate is bad. The flywheel's fine. Oil filter we need to take off. I don't think we can remove this stuff. Yeah, from under the car. We got to be up in the car to get that. It's fine. All right. So we got those things off. Let's pop over here to our separate parts, because we have a couple of double wishbone shock absorbers we can take apart. Then I'm going to go over to the brake lathe. We don't have the ability to lay those brakes, so those are bad. Clutch plate we can repair. All right. Rest of these, they're actually in fair condition. But like we did with our previous repair, since we're going ahead and repairing most of the suspension system on this vehicle, the ones that are in poor repair that are reasonable, I'm going to go ahead and just repair them. Now, this also will technically add to our inventory of parts that we already have a lot of these parts. Yeah, I have extra calipers. So repairing them, just in my head, just adds them to my list of parts. Then I'm going to sort our parts by condition, putting the worst at the top. So there's the worst at the top. And we'll just go ahead and add these parts to our shopping list. All right, that's good. I'm going to go here to the shopping list. The oil pan we already took care of. Clutch release bearing we need. Now again, this is one which I don't think we've added clutch release bearings to our inventory of parts. We haven't. So let's do that. Let's add a pile of clutch release bearings. Because, again, they're a wear item and they're used on every single vehicle. So that's gone. Go back to our shopping list. Brake discs, buy a couple. A lot of times those can be repairable. So rear muffler ×2. Shock absorber caps for the rears, buy 2. Gearbox, we need 1. Oil filter, we just need 1. Now that's something that, as you start to restore your own cars, I'd have a pile of oil filters, ones that are common. Rear knuckle housing D, let's just buy a couple. Knuckle cover, I think we have these, actually. Clutch release plate, we already replaced, repaired that is. Bottom suspension arm, I think we bought a couple of these, but we'll just buy a half dozen for now. So we have a few spares. Front exhaust section. Rubber bushings we have a bunch. Wheel bearings we have a bunch. So we're good. Alright. Then let's go ahead and join our shock absorbers together. And I think I didn't use the bad springs, which I could have reused the bad springs. So let's just do that, because we can reuse the old springs, so might as well. Join the parts, the rear shock absorber, the bad spring, and then we needed to replace the cap, because the caps were bad. So we'll put new caps on. $73, then we'll swing over, get the 76 and 100% cap. So we just replaced the caps on these double wishbone shock absorbers. Alright, pop up here to part mount, put on the knuckle, Knuckle covers. Ah, I don't have knuckle covers. I thought I had purchased a bunch of these. Well, fellers, I hadn't. Now I had. Now we got a bunch. And again, I'm just planning or showing examples of what I would be doing as I'm leveling my guy up and what parts I would purchase excess of and which parts I would not. Put on a nice new brake caliper. Get the upper suspension arm on. Lower suspension arm. And a double wishbone shock absorber. There we go. We put on the exhaust piece. Rear muffler, that is. Front exhaust section. And up over here, get another knuckle and knuckle cover. Upper suspension arm. Put on the wheel hub and a bearing. Nice new brake disc. Brake pads, which we could put the old brake pads on technically. This guy was fine with the old brake pads, so might as well. Brake pads are not repairable. I think we put the nice new brake pads on the other side, but that's fine. There we go. Then we can pop on the new repaired clutch plate, clutch pressure plate, which we didn't buy, forgot. X. Now, clutch pressure plates and release bearings are not performance. These two you can get as performance parts. For like my own car, the 3-star series, I have a pile of clutch pressure plates that I've purchased that are the performance version, but I don't buy excess of the plain plates because I for all the cars I'm keeping, I upgrade them. The clutch release bearing though is not a performance part, so I don't have qualms about having extra clutch release bearings. There you go. Put on the drive axles, which we repaired for the guy. And then we'll pop on the wheels. There's that one. Hop over to the other side, the other drive axle, and then the wheel. There we go. So that side should be done. Let's take off the front tire here. The front system here. So we have a caliper that looks like crap. And a brake pad that looks bad. The disc on this side actually not too bad. We could probably be able to turn that one. Bearings out. WD-40 on that rusty nut. Wheel cover. A lower suspension arm is what looks bad here. I'll pull that. Now, tie rods look fine, right? Yep, they look good. Get this connecting bolt. Then I think we had to replace this shock. Let's go here. Now we already have some of these made up, so I'm just going to go ahead and slap on the new ones right away without even having to stop to look at parts. See, this is the advantage of having all these parts already in our inventory. We can just pop in and just pull them up and replace them right here. Didn't have to stop at the store, didn't have to pass go. Boom, we're right in. Repaired. Simple. Let's go to the other side. And I didn't address the brakes on that side yet, so that'll be the next step. Part unmount. Let's take this wheel off. Well, you see, if you have an inventory of parts, this does make life a little bit quicker for you. Brake pad is bad. I'll turn that disc. The wheel hub off. That knuckle actually looks fine. Shock, I think, needs to be replaced. Lower suspension arm here looks poorly. 10 to 1, we're going to end up having to replace these rubber bushings. We'll see. Was the tie rods bad on this side? Well, go to examine mode. No, they're okay. We don't have to worry about that. Okay. Alright, pop back up here, and we'll just go straight to assemble mode. Just put this stuff back together. Throw the bearings on, new cap, new shock absorber, sure. Interlink, or end link. Lower suspension arm. Okay, let's go turn the brakes. Then we'll repair those parts that I removed from that vehicle, and I had replaced them with the nice new parts. This all pays forward, right? Because those will be parts we can keep for ourselves. Sell that. Sell that. Oh, sell. And we'll lathe up the last one. Maybe we'll use that brake pad. I was just slowly selling those parts as we were waiting for the brakes to lathe. Didn't take terribly long. Part mount. Turned rotors. Let's put the 74 brake pad on there. Might as well use that old brake pad up. 74 is not a bad pad. Of course, I should have checked to make sure I got credit for that. Think about it. Car status. Ah, shoot, it didn't give me credit for it. Well, we'll just take it off and just sell that 74% pad. While I'm thinking of it so I don't use it. Fine. Nice new pad. Did you give me credit? You did. All right. Alright, throw the wheel back on. I'm going to pop over to this side, do the brakes on this side. And pop on wheel. Then I'm just going to check our status. See what parts we have left. Cam gears, those are in the, obviously up in the engine. Radiators up there, idler rollers up there, throttles up there. And then some parts that are undiscovered, probably going to be engine parts. So I think suspension-wise, we're good. Maybe these rubber bushings might need to be pulled and replaced, but honestly, I'll just wait on that for now. Let's drop her down. Get into the front here. Let's find the coolant reservoir. There it is. Go to our drain tool. Drain that little drop of coolant that's still left. Okay. Then we can click on the radiator. Pull the radiator and the radiator. I know that fuel pump is bad. I can just tell you it's bad. Okay. So we'll go in here. Let's buy a fuel pump. There's a fuel pump. Fixed. Radiator A. Buy that. Then we're going to need a fan and fan housing. Radiator fan housing and radiator fan. Hopefully I bought the right one. I think I did. We'll see if I was right. I was. All right. Good. So that's addressed. Let's just take his battery off. And again, just because we're nice, let's get them a nice new charged battery, right? Alright, let's pop into the engine. We know this throttle is bad. Pop the throttle off the intake. Alright, throttle's off. That fuel rail looked bad, so I just pulled it, and it's bad. Oil filter we can sell. That we can sell. That we can sell. That we can sell. Okay. We already tested the injectors, or not the injectors, the spark plugs and the ignition coils. They were fine. We have some timing issues here. We know we have cam gears that are bad. So let's get down to this side. This arm looks bad. That pulley. Alright, probably take the belt first. And then get that pulley. Alternator's bad. Good thing we didn't put coolant in yet because this water pump looks bad. That's off. Then we pull the clutch bearing maybe? No, I can't. Can I? Oh, pulley. Timing covers. Timing covers. Alright, let's pull that. Actually, this was the water pump. That looks fine. So we pulled the power steering pump that was bad. Cam gears. Alright, the camshafts look okay. Just based on the amount of surface rust there on the outside. Let's check our car status. We still have some parts that are undiscovered. Okay. Huh. How many parts are undiscovered? 1, 2, 3, 5. 10 to 1 they're rubber bushings. So I'm going to replace these parts that we know are bad on the engine, and then we'll run it through some tests on our test path and what have you, and see if we can pick up the rest of the parts. Our steering pump, cam gear, arm, throttle, idler roller, belt tensioner, alternator, fuel rail, cam gears. Just gonna replace all the idler rollers. Alright. Can we repair those covers just to make those in better shape? Let's head over to the workbench. Yeah. Again, this is not something you have to do by any stretch. In fact, I would probably recommend you don't. It's just extra time. This is just a little OCD on me. I just want it repaired if I'm going to fix it. Alright, so I'm going to pop to the store. Let's look at our shopping list. Power steering pump. Cam gear. 4. An arm for a V6B. Throttle. Idler roller B. These idler rollers are used in every car. Not this particular one, but idler roller A, B, whatever. They're a universal part. I buy a bunch when I have one broken. Belt tensioner, again, used almost on every car. I'm just going to buy a big giant pile of them. Serpentine belt, okay, there. That's car specific. Alternator, got to buy at the other place. Fuel rail. Idler roller. I'm just going to buy a bunch. And another serpentine belt. Again, that's unique to the car. Alternator, now they're not unique to the car. However, like for cars that I'm keeping in my inventory that I'm making 3-star performance cars, that is a performance part. So I don't buy excess of a part that's universal that I have a performance alternative for. I would buy a bunch of performance ones if I was doing it for my own self, or even to sell performance parts. If you have the option when you're doing a car flip for money, any place there's a chance for a performance part, put it there. Your cash return on performance part is a little higher than using the standard part. So you'll get more money back from using performance parts. That's my point. All right, cam gears. replaced. Idler rollers. Put on the new belt. New belt tensioner. And covers, which we repaired. Which I'm not sure what you do to repair those. Bang out the dents, hit it with the wire whirler, and throw some spray paint on it. Our steering pump. Got it. And serpentine belt. That arm on the new one. Then there's a little idler roller. I think that's the front. Yep, that's the front system. Good. Put on the new fuel rail. Then we can put on the new throttle. I'm pretty sure we had a bad air filter here too, right? Part unmount. Part mount. Oh, the battery. Sometimes clicking on these clips to take the top off is just somewhat irritating. It's hard to get to. There we go. Cover off. Just a plain air filter, right? Yeah. Let's go to the car parts store. It's the plain air filter, which is right on the front page. Put that on. Put back the same cover. And clips. Check so you can repair clips. Again, I don't know what you do with that. You just hit it with a wire whirler, I guess. Maybe throw some spray paint on it. Rebuilt. Alright, that looks solid. Let's go grab the battery off the boiler. Hop in here. Put part mount. Put the battery back on. And let's put some coolant in it. Then we should put some oil in the car too. There we go. Oil. Pretty sure we're almost done with this vehicle. There's probably just a few, I'm guessing, rubber bushings, maybe a few other small parts that need to be addressed. If not, it's internal engine issues that we didn't look at yet. Assemble mode, put that engine cover on, which I actually repaired. Normal mode, close this. Let's move the car to the test path. And we can just test on what we've just done. Starts quick. Brakes in the front we have fixed completely. Brakes in the back have been fixed completely. Almost completely. That's right, we put one bad pad in the back. Suspension in the front seems okay. Rear suspension seems solid. Is there any bad parts? Nope. And the rubber bushings actually test out okay. At least on the ones that we can test. Let's go to examine mode here real quick. Yeah, so it tested the rubber bushings, the ones that are in the cross member. Those are the ones I was worried about. They look fine. So it's probably going to be engine work. Let's check on our compression test. And I eyeballed the pistons. They looked okay. Maybe the camshafts. Well, the pistons themselves were fine. It's rings. So we're going to have to do rings. Okay. Was that all the parts that were unidentified? Yep. Piston rings. Okay. Well, I did not expect that. So apparently whoever the kid was who had this vehicle prior to the gentleman who gave us this car to work on it really ran it hard. All right. Let's pop this off. Now to get to rings, we're going to have to pull the pistons, which means you have to pull the head, the oil pan. Yeah, this is unfortunate. So we're going to have to do some teardown here. I'm questioning myself whether or not I should just pull the engine and do that repair over there. It might be easier to do that versus having to lift up and down. Yeah, I'm thinking we're doing that. All right. That's the plan. So let's pull the wheels first. Pull the drive axle. Hop in here. Take the starter off. Over to this wheel. Pull this wheel off. Pull the axle off on this side. Okay. Did I take the starter? I did. Now I can pull the part unmount. Pull the trans. Maybe I can't. I gotta have it higher in the air. It's one of those cars that you started getting into and you expected one thing, and I ended up figuring out something else. That's okay. Pull this exhaust piece and this exhaust piece. I should drain the oil. Actually, if I take the car, I don't think I'll have to if I pull the engine. Let me see. This will be a test. I can't remember if you have to. I mean, in real life, you drain the oil, but drain oil. Okay, so it did say that because we had refilled the engine with oil. Step, step, step. Let's move this to the oil drain tool. Drain out that nice new oil we just put in. Hi, Lucas. How are you? You're not in the picture yet. You gotta keep going. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Hey, there you are. Hi, Lucas. You're in your own guide video. Pulled it out. All right, let's go mount the motor on the engine stand. All right, click on this, we'll rotate it. So we're not gonna have to do a complete teardown, but we're gonna have to get the parts off that allow us to remove the pistons. So how do we do that? Rod caps underneath. And to pull the pistons, you can't pull them out underneath the car. You have to pull them out above through the head. And the pistons themselves, when we eyeballed them, they did look fine. But you can't see the rings. The rings are, you know, up around the top of the piston. So I can't see those. So even though my eyeball test, I said, I think this is actually going to be fine. It surely was not fine. All right, let's get the engine head cover off on this side. I think we're going to have to take this intake off, which means we'll take off the new throttle that we had just taken care of. Now we can take the intake. There we go. Intake's off. Take off this engine cover. Okay. Then we'll pull this rocker cover. Same on this side. We're going to have to pull the cams to actually pull the head. So I am going to have to take the front off as well. Alright, let's pull this. Let's take off the top for now. I think we can get by with just doing that. Nope. So we're gonna have to take off the whole assembly we put on the front. That's okay. Little extra XP, right? Okay. Pull that off. Come on, belt. Cam. Pull that one. I think I have to pull that one. Let's see. Ah, exhaust manifold. Now can I pull the head? Nope, can't pull the head yet. Fuel rail's gotta come. Where's that last bolt? Well, I can't see a bolt. Where am I missing a bolt? Alright. There it is. The head is off, and then I can pull these pistons. Alright, so that side is out. Let's get this side out as well. Now, piston rings. There's a few V8s that have different size piston rings. Most cars use just plain piston rings. So that would be one that I'd recommend that you just buy a pile of 50 rings whenever you end up coming due to buy piston rings. And have that as your inventory. That's off. The exhaust manifold off. Pull that, pull that. Hey, and we leveled. Alright. Ah, see, that's the real reason we wanted to put the car back together and retest it to find that the rings were bad. We wanted to level again. Nothing wrong with that, right? Alright, pull that, pull that, pull that. So, can we put some points in? Sure. Alright, we don't have enough for the next, but hey, we're going to move a little faster. And we do have some parts we could repair for this guy. I went through all the trouble of pulling these parts, which I hadn't intended on doing. I'm going to go ahead and repair the parts that are cheap to repair, like the rod caps cost $4. So we'll get new rod caps for him. Engine head cover, $19.40. Cams aren't that much to repair. Much of the heads. The heads would be a lot to repair. All right, that's enough repair. We're being nice. But let's go to the store, and we're going to buy rings. Piston rings right here. And you see there's 3 different types. V8 overhead valve B and overhead valve C. You use those on a couple of engines, but for most cars that use piston rings, it's just plain piston rings. So that's what I'm buying. I'm just going to buy a pile of them. Then I can go over here, go back to part mount, put on the pistons with the new piston rings with the old pistons. Which honestly, I think if you're going through the trouble of repairing an engine and putting in new rings, I'd just replace the pistons personally. But you know, customer didn't ask for that, so we're not doing it. Save a little money. Camshafts. Put in the old spark plugs. And again, inventory-wise, I wouldn't buy plain spark plugs. Partially because the cars that you're going to either flip for money or the cars that you're going to keep for yourself, you're going to want performance spark plugs, which you can buy performance. So that would be a reasonable one to buy a bunch of performance parts. But just for a customer car that you're just repairing, I probably wouldn't. And this guy didn't ask for new plugs anyway, so we're not replacing them. Put on the old engine head covers. The exhaust manifolds back on. All right, the new bearings or cam gears. And do the head on this side. Camshaft, bearing, head cover, bearing, head cover, and we forgot to put in their spark plugs and the subsequent ignition coils. Exhaust manifold on this side, and then we'll head up top there and do the intake manifold. Or we'll swing around to the back, put on the thermostat, intake manifold, fuel rail, and a fuel rail, intake manifold A, and the throttle that we have replaced. All right, that's back together. So let's take the engine off the stand, go over to our cherry picker, install engine, put that back. Now we can put oil back in it. Ah, I did not put the oil pan back on. Holy cow. I hadn't finished repairing the engine. Well, this is an interesting guide video. This is called Problems Happen and You Keep Going. Alright, so I put the pistons in. You know what we forgot to put on? The rod caps that hold the pistons in. That's okay. We can do it from underneath the car. I intended on doing this the entire time. Rod caps. And we can put the oil pan back on. And we're under the car, so we can slap the trans back on, which is a nice new transmission. Put the starter on. That exhaust piece, since it's staring us right in the face. Drive axle. And slap the wheel back on. Pop to this side. Get the drive axle on this side. The front exhaust piece on this side. And the last tire. And rim, of course. Holy cow. We forgot to do the front of the engine. Jeez. I don't know why I took it off the engine mount when it wasn't done. Alright. Part mount. Got the head done, and I just thought I was done, apparently. Cam gears. Serpentine belt. Belt tensioner. And then the covers. And then there'll be the place down below, I believe. Alright, now we can put oil in it because we actually finished the engine. Holy cow. Oil. There we go. Got some oil in. Assemble mode, put the engine cover back on. Check our car status. Everything is green. So we can just go to finish order. That order is done. Now we have a bunch of red parts that we can sell and a few that are like 80%. So I would just say sell everything below 80%. Alright, so now we're just down to our inventory parts. Save. Should have got a case out of that. Yes, let's open the case. 1 and 2. And we got a bonus case, which means we're going to go to 3 and 4. And a barn map and some scrap. Save that up. And let's go ahead and hop right into the next story car. Like I said, I was planning on doing 2 story cars in one guide video. This one, the first guide, story car just went long, so sorry for that. So 2003 Scao LX550. It's a Chrysler 300 is what this is. Hello! I've been having trouble with driving at night for some time. I'm not sure, but I think it's a matter of a weak car battery. The lamps are looking a bit dirty, but it shouldn't be a problem. Since I'm already here, check if everything's okay with my car. I'm neither a fan nor an expert. I just get an impression sometimes it starts to lose power on longer rides. Or maybe it's just the car is already of age. You can also wash it. I park it outside and it's a bit dusty. Thanks. Good luck. Repair or replace body parts, change the oil, and there'll be other tasks. And that free car wash is really paying off for us. It actually doesn't even look that dirty compared to like every other customer's car. Holy cow, this car looks like in pristine color shape. But, you know, we'll still start off with the car wash. It's fine. And I'll even be nice and just detail the interior for this guy. Alright, let's check the order. 5 pages of undiscovered parts. Left headlight and right headlight need to be addressed. Okay, we'll just do that right now. Left headlight, right headlight. Purchased. Assemble mode. Fixed. Fixed. Alright, that's done. Alright, that part is done. Change the oil. Headlight alignment, sure. Refill washer fluid. Okay. We'll go ahead and throw in the washer fluid. Got it. Washer fluid is in. Let's see, can we do some diagnostics on this bad boy? Check our tools. Onboard diagnostic tool. Read away, Reader 500 Pro. I think I see a bad fuel rail behind that. 2 bad fuel rails. Okay, so we need an ECU type A. That sits right there. That's easy to replace. ECU type A. I'm not going to buy the performance one. Part mount. Fixed. Okay. Our status, ECU type A is fixed. That was the only thing we got out of that scan. So go to our additional tools, compression test. Can't be started. Okay. Electronic multimeter. Depending on when the battery is going to be bad, because that came up in the customer's story that he had a bad battery. Well, he's probably right. A lot of these electrodigitals are testing low, so we probably have a bunch of bad electrical system parts. Hey, bub. Fuses, relays, and a battery. And a bunch of fuses here, too. Like, all the fuses are bad, actually. The radiator fan and the starter, those are all fine. So let's pull the battery. We know that's going to be bad. Let's pop into the fuse box. And I'm just going to go to examine mode. And you can see all the fuses are bad. They're all orange or red. So let's go to normal mode. We're just going to pop all these fuses. Now fuses are the same types of fuses. If it's an ECU A or a 50 amp fuse, 70 amp fuse, whatever, they're the same fuses in every car. So this is something else that I would purchase a pile of and have in my inventory. Alright, so I'll go into the inventory. Fuse type A, relay B's, relay C, relay A. Okay. Medium fuse, relay C. Then I'm going to go to the electronic stop. Medium fuse A, how many you buying? 50. Done. Then I don't have to buy relays or fuses for a number of cars, depending on how many cars end up having relay problems or fuse problems. But we'll have this part addressed and out of the way for the future cars that we end up working on. So you identify a problem with the car, you pull a bad fuse, you just throw a fuse right on, you already have them in your inventory. Bop. Pop. Then you can just pop these in, and boom, fuses are fixed and repaired. Oops. Did I put in a bad fuse there? I think I did. Yeah, I didn't buy medium fuse type Bs. Misfired on that on the ordering. Alright, so fuses and relays fixed. Fuse box back on. Let's go ahead and move the car to the lifter. Then we can pop the battery on the charger. Go in here, electronic tread test we can do without having the battery charge. That's it for the Pepsi Max for the morning. Alright, tires are good. Let's pull that battery, it should be charged by now. Part mount the battery. Then I'm going to go to my tools again. Can I do a fuel test? I think these fuel rails are bad. They're staring us right. We definitely aren't in the green on the fuel digital meter, or the fuel pressure tester. Fuel rail, fuel pump, filter's fine. So these fuel rails are bad. Thought they were. Fuel pump sitting in the back there. Now, you definitely don't have to do things like this as you go along. I'm just kind of doing it a little different this time. Fuel pumps addressed. We're probably going to end up having to pull these fuel rails because I bet this car has other engine problems, but just wanted to do that. Alright, Now can we do a compression test? Alright, we got low compression, we can see that. Barely registering 5 bars. Piston rings, camshafts, piston rings, piston rings, piston rings. The pistons themselves are fine, but the piston rings and the camshafts look terrible. Alright, looking at our start here. So replace the camshafts, the crank, the alternator, all the piston rings, a throttle, and then there's some parts we have yet to identify. Now, will the car run with those bad parts? I think it will. The reason being, I was just going to see if we could do the rest of the testing on it right now. Nope, no engine in the no oil in the engine. Oh, if I replace the oil, will you run? Engine can't be started. Well, that's too bad. Well, we're here, so let's go ahead and do a light alignment since we have to do that. Left is aligned. Right's aligned. Wheels are lights are aligned. Let's go back to the lift. We'll drain that little bit of oil we just added to the bad oil. I'm just going to go to examine mode and examine the suspension system quick. Okay, that parts are done. Just to see if we have bad suspension pieces since we got her up in the air. That test looks okay. Well, we've kind of examined what we could there. Examine more engine parts. And like I said, there's not every part can be examined this way, but you can examine a lot of parts this way. Got a bad crankshaft pulley. Our status. Still some parts we have yet to identify. That's all right. Move the drain tool. Let's drain the fluids. Pop in here. Take the drive shaft off. Because again, if we're doing rings, I like to pull, or anytime you're doing like bottom engine work, pistons, piston rings, I like to pull the engine. I think it's just easier to use it on the engine stand to work on an engine. Not everyone feels that way, but that's how I like it. Alright, I'm just eyeballing these parts. Okay. And you gotta take off this front exhaust piece because that hooks to the engine. We'll pop off this starter, and then we can take our trans off. There we go. That's off. Flywheel looks bad. Exhaust manifolds don't look good on the one side. Okay. Move that back. Let's drop this out of the air. I'll go grab the cherry picker. Move that to purple car. Let's pull the engine. And the strong arm mechanic is going to walk it over here and install it on the stand. Okay. And we're going to rotate it. We'll start underneath, and we're just going to tear this bad boy down. We know we have a bad crank, so we're going to have to pull the crankcase bearings, which also look bad. Pop out these rod caps. I'm betting it's going to be rod caps, crankshaft bearings. Those will probably be the unidentified parts. But we'll see. Those are off. Like I said, I think that flywheel's bad. Take the exhaust manifold off since I'm just sitting here staring right at it. Well, maybe I will. There's the last bolt. And pop over here to the front. That pulley off, that arm. Belt. Alternator we can take. Power steering pumps we can take. Idler pulleys. Oh, we got a bad water pump too. Camshafts we knew were bad. Looks like the gears are bad too. Excuse me, I did not get the mute in time for that. Sorry. Exhaust manifold on this side, because we're going to have to pull the heads to get all the piston rings addressed. Take that throttle off the back, or I think it's a throttle, right? No, it's a thermostat off the back. Take that throttle off the intake. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and rotate the engine. Come up here, let's do the top parts. Take this intake manifold. It's a two-part intake manifold. This is the same engine we worked on last car. Fuel rails. Filter I didn't actually need to remove, so I can just leave the fuel filter hanging out in the middle of space. Take this last intake off. There we go. And get the head covers off. This head cover off. Camshaft, spark plugs. Camshaft. Alright, that's off. I can pull the head, right? Yeah. Pistons out on that side. I like kind of those bearing caps instead of having individual rocker arms and push rods. Makes it go a little quicker, somewhat. Camshafts, ignition coils, spark plugs. Pull the head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop out the pistons. Then we should be able to grab the crank. There we go. So now, there's just a few pulleys left, a fuel filter, and the block, which that looks fine. Alright, so with that out, are there parts we can repair? Well, we can repair the drive shaft, the starter, the gearbox, which you don't have to. Oil pan costs 11 bucks to repair. Let's repair it. Crankshaft bearing cap, yep. Oh, I failed. That's terrible. I failed on a rod cap. My gosh. Helps to stop it in the green. Guide video, right? Clutch plate, we're going to repair. The exhaust manifold, we're repairing. Alternator, let's repair. Yeah, shoot. Why not? Repair his timing covers for him. Did that for the last guy. Water pump, we could repair. Well, we repaired one exhaust manifold. Let's just repair the other. Thermostat, sure, let's repair it. Throttle can be repaired, all right. Camshafts can be repaired. That saves you some money right there. Way cheaper to repair things than having to replace them. The rest I think we'll leave alone. Now I'm just gonna, for checks, go back to the car, go to car status, see if there's any parts we're missing. They're not. So it was all engine parts that we had to fix. So that's good. Let's go to our inventory, and I'm going to sort by condition. It's already sorted for me. Fuel rail we already took care of. These fuses we took care of. The headlights we took care of. ECU's done. Oil filter we got. I think I did. Crankshaft bearing cap. Rings we have a bunch of. Rod caps we should buy a bunch. Crankshaft pulley. Cam gear. Bearing cap. Relay we bought a bunch. Belt tensioner we have a bunch. Cam gear. Rings we're going to buy a bunch. Fuel pump already dressed. Nope. Need to buy one camshaft. Crankshaft. Cam gear. Idler roller we got. Buy a new belt. Power steering pump we need. Sure. Selling off the parts that we don't have to worry about fixing or replacing, and adding the ones to the list that we need. All right, that should be a good comprehensive list of things we actually need. Crankshaft bearing caps. You can repair these. This is also universal. So I just bought a bunch. Rod caps can be repaired, also universal. I just bought a bunch. Crankshaft pulley. See, this one's used in a lot of cars. I'm just going to buy a half dozen. So we have some on hand. 4 cam gears for a V6. Camshaft B. Crankshaft. Serpentine belt. Power steering pump. That arm. Serpentine belt. And a flywheel. Alright, let's go in here to part mount. And I'll start at the bottom. And we'll put on the crank, followed by all the pistons with new rings. And again, we didn't replace the pistons, which I suppose we definitely could have, but the customer doesn't request them to be replaced, so we didn't. Put on the new rod caps, new bearings. I like watching how these engines go back together. It's just a rewarding feeling to take one, tear it down, figure out what's wrong with it, put it back together. Oil pan. Oh, I didn't buy an oil filter. Thought I had. Well, I just did. There we go. Oil filter. Then we put the flywheel on, the new one. Clutch plate, and then the clutch pressure plate. And a new bearing. Alternator. Crankshaft pulley. Then we'll slowly place all the idler rollers and belts here. Arm. Alright, let's rotate the engine. Get on up on top here. Put the head on. And the 8 bolts. Put on the camshafts. Camshaft caps. New spark plugs, or not new spark plugs, the original spark plugs, and the original ignition coils. Head cover. On both sides. Put on the repaired exhaust manifolds. Our steering pump, camshaft pulley, or gear, and we'll pop to this side and put this head on, and it's 8 bolts. Camshaft, spark plugs. Ignition coils. Exhaust manifold. Some bearings. Engine head cover. And an engine head cover. Thermostat. Intake manifold. And the intake manifold B. Fuel rail, and a throttle. Cam gear, idler roller, belt, and a belt tensioner. Then we can put the covers on. belt. And one more idler roller. All right, now let's check the engine over here. Make sure we actually didn't miss anything. It looks complete. Take it off the stand. Go to the cherry picker. Install engine into engine bay. Move that back. Up here. Let's fill her with oil. Oil is in. Check our car status. Got to do the air filter. That'll be the last piece to repair. And just like the last car, this air filter is just the plain air filter, so it's the one right on the first page of the shop. Put T, clear that, buy this air filter. Air filter. Cover. So as far as repairs go, I believe this car is repaired. We just have to put on the parts we took off to move the engine, which is the drive shaft and transmission and starter. Hop up here, part mount. Oh, and the front exhaust piece. Put on trans. Starter. Front exhaust piece. And then reattach the drive shaft. 4 bolts at the front. 2, 3, 4. 4 bolts at the rear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our status. We are good. 10,000 order. Out the door. And we got a case. Let's do 4 and 5. Case. All right. Bonus case. Let's do 1 and 2. Bonus case. All right. Let's do 3 and 4. All right. Scrap and some money. And a bar map. So we have leveled our mechanic up to 31. We have some available skill points to unlock. We have just max leveled our mechanic. So we can run as fast, examine parts as fast as you possibly can. We have 42,000 in cash and about 73 parts, or 73 pages of accessory parts that we can use for our rebuilds. We'll be lining up our guide video number now with the story car, which it looks like it's another Chrysler 300. That might be an Audi. No, Mayan M3 is a Lincoln. A Lincoln will be next. So that's where we'll pick up on the next guide video. Lucas, Isaac, Parker, I hope you enjoyed this one. I will see you guys in the next. Take her easy.